Hello, my name is Julie Harris, and I am an MS3 at OU Army ROTC. This is my spring 2019 midterm video to discuss Emotional Intelligence 2.0 by Bradbury and Greaves. The book was provided to us, and I had sticky notes in it, so I did not write in it. And I don't have my OU shirt on, but I'm on my way to Baton, so that should suffice, I hope. So I really enjoyed this book. I think that it was a really great way to tap into emotional intelligence in a different kind of sense, where you actually got strategies on how to improve your emotional intelligence. I feel like people understand what emotional intelligence is, but they don't have like a plan to improve themselves. And so I'm going to go ahead and just tap into the 4 skills that the book had to offer, and that was self-awareness, so just kind of like knowing yourself, knowing what makes you upset, knowing how your emotions are for you, and then self-management, so taking those emotions that you know and being able to do something about it and not just having them run rampant. The next one is social awareness, so knowing the people around you and being aware of their emotions and how you should react to them and their emotions. And then the last one is relationship management. So, you know how people are reacting, you're aware of that, but then maintaining those relationships and ensuring that they're staying positive and that they're not going down a negative path. So the strategies that I found that were the most useful, and honestly I think the ones that would work best for me, were about 14 of them. I know there were a lot of them, but I really enjoyed these 14, and I thought that in my discussion I really could dig a lot deeper into this, but with restricted time I feel like I couldn't, and so I guess I could dig into them a little bit more right now. But we're gonna go ahead and start off with self-awareness. And so self-awareness, I feel like for me, is really important, just because I've always felt like I have had like a temper. I know it doesn't show now, but I've always feel like I kind of hold it in, and like I guess I have improved my self-awareness. But knowing what triggers you is one of the strategies that I feel like is really important, because a lot of people feel emotions and then they don't really understand what that means, and they just get mad and they don't think about like what in the moment made them upset. But being able to sit down and think through a situation where you understand exactly at what point made you upset, I feel like that's really important, and that can help you with like your self-awareness and like kind of staying away from situations like that. So knowing if this one thing was like what makes you angry, then you won't do stuff that's going to cause that one trigger. And so I think that knowing what upsets you in the first place helps you avoid these situations, so that you're more aware of your emotions and you're understanding exactly what's making you upset. I think that seek feedback is the next strategy that I feel like is really important, like looking for this feedback from other people, because you might have an idea about yourself, but you don't like, you know how you react, but having other people tell you how you're reacting, or having other people tell you what your attitude is towards other things, like, is really important. And being able to like take that feedback and put it to use and like have like kind of a self-evaluation is really important. And I think that that's why peer evaluations is really important, because you get to see what other people think about you, and that kind of just brings you back down to earth, because you might feel like you are, an amazing person, or you definitely have like a cool head, but people might think that you definitely are a hot head, or that you have really strong emotions and then you just act on impulse. And so it's just important to kind of see that and maybe like compromise a list of yourself to see like where they're right and where you're right, and then kind of working off of that, and again just being more self-aware. And then the last one from self-awareness that I really enjoyed is keeping a journal. I've started doing that after my spring of sophomore year. I think it just really helps you kind of writing down and physically seeing the words on paper about your emotions. I feel like that really helps you improve it. So I know like whenever I'm like really upset, I'll write down exactly like how I was feeling and why I was feeling that way, and like what I did to cause these emotions, or like maybe what other people did to cause these emotions, so that I can see, okay, this is what makes me mad. And so it kind of goes back into knowing what triggers you. When you write it down, you're not forgetting it, because when you're writing again, you see it, and it's just kind of a constant reminder of like, okay, I need to stay away from these types of situations if I don't want to get angry. And so I feel like those three honestly really work well for like me personally with my self-awareness, like being able to know what makes me upset, being able to get feedback about it, and then being able to keep a journal to remind myself. The next skill, self-management, I have a 4 strategies that I feel like really work well for me, and that's one of them is making your goals public. I always thought that this was a really great way for people, especially people who have trouble with completing goals. I think that making goals public is extremely important. Being a fitness instructor and yes, a sensei kickboxing instructor, I saw more people achieve their goals when they would post them on Facebook or take before and after pictures. I saw more people achieve their goals that way than the people who didn't say anything. And I think that was because, you know, you kind of had that pressure put on you to maintain the goal, to maintain that view on someone. And so you don't want people to look at you down, like you don't want people to look at you negatively for not following through with your goals. I also really like count to 10. I think that sometimes you need to kind of take a break from a situation. It's anything that's making you upset, just like closing your eyes and just counting to 10. I like to add some breath or some breathing into that. And so, you know, counting to 10 just kind of calms down a situation. Get yourself away from it and just give yourself some time to think. I think that's a really great way to manage yourself. And then also take control of your self-talk. I know like a lot of people who talk negatively about themselves, and that's just gonna only cause a negative environment for yourself. But if you change I like how he said, changing the I always or I never to just this time or I sometimes. And I like that because it's not limiting yourself to this negativity. Like, people make mistakes, but if you limit yourself to your mistakes, you're never gonna complete anything that you want to complete. And then the last one is talk to someone not attached. Talking to someone who's biased or talking to someone who's like attached to the like relationship or the friendship or whatever's going on, you're not gonna get any honest feedback on that. And that goes back into self-awareness of having that feedback. But if you have somebody who's outside of the situation, then they're gonna give you unbiased opinions, and I think that that's just like way more beneficial than having somebody who's like on someone's side or on your side, and it's just messy. It's not gonna be any management in that. You're kind of just hearing what you want to hear. The next one's gonna be the social awareness skill. I think this is really important just because like, you should always be aware of other people around you. Some of the things I found really important were greet people by name. Again, I know going back into that fitness industry, especially when I was a kickboxing instructor, I had to learn people's first names, and I loved that I got to learn people's first names because it just made everything much more personable. The people that didn't really want to didn't really want to have that relationship with me, they would just kind of go under the radar, and it felt like they just were like not wanting to be like as personable. And I feel like greeting people by their first name just makes them feel like, or makes them know that they're important, makes them know that they're a part of whatever organization they're a part of. And I feel like that just makes a more positive environment than just, you know, calling people by, like, let's say by rank or by last name. I feel like obviously if it's somebody like a leader above you, then yeah, it's important to like respect them with their rank. But I also feel like if you have subordinates, it's nice to be able to call them by their first name to show them that you know who they are and they're not just another Joe in your formation. The next one I thought was really important was watching body language. I think that body language is way more of an efficient communication skill than words. I think that body language is the true form of emotion, and that you can really see how someone is feeling, and you can really read the room by body language. The last one I like is stepping into their shoes. I think that we tend to assume things about people without fully understanding what may be going on in their lives. Maybe they just had a bad day, maybe they had a bad week, maybe they had something building up all week, and your body language or your words were the one thing that set them off, and you can't just assume that they're a bad person because of that. I think that stepping into their shoes, especially as a platoon leader and talking to your subordinates, like these people, like they're 18 years old, they're 19, very young. And I mean, you're young yourself, but they're much younger than you, and you have to like kind of imagine what it's like to be 18, out of home, away from your family for the first time, and like just kind of being in their shoes and being like, okay, maybe this situation has a different explanation. And then the last one is relationship management. I had 4 strategies from this that I really liked, and it was avoid giving mixed signals. Kind of like walk it like you talk it. And I think that like if you're gonna talk certain things, that you need to take action as well. Like what he said was people pay more attention to what you do rather than what you say. So like, don't say that you're gonna do one thing and then not do it, because then that's just giving mixed signals, and that's just gonna cause it for a negative environment. Also, building trust. I think that building trust and having an open door policy, which are my next two, kind of go hand in hand, because you need to build trust to be able to have an open door policy. And I know like that if I don't trust like somebody, I'm not going to go to their open door policy, because I'm not going to be able to feel like it is a true open door policy. And I think that having that trust is really important to build right off the bat, so that, you know, when you have that open door policy, that people will feel more comfortable to come talk to you. And then the last one that I really liked was offer a fix-it during a broken conversation. I know like sometimes I can harp in an argument, and I can just keep fighting, but I know that at some point, like, where's the point? Like, where's the point? Where's the actual point? Where am I gonna fix it rather than continue arguing? And that's like really hard, especially sometimes for me, to like kind of take a step back and be like, okay, I'm not gonna win. No one's gonna win out of this. But instead of continuing to harp on the same thing, we should probably come up with a solution instead. And then, those are my strategies that I really enjoyed for the 4 skills. And then I think honestly what helped me, my scores, I have them down right here. My self-awareness score is kind of low. It's a 66. I feel like that's just because like I have always kind of had like issues with my emotions. Like I have like obviously been working on them and been much better, but now that I'm like keeping a journal and I'm like counting to 10 and I'm taking more control of like how I speak to myself, I think that that's gonna like definitely help me continue to like grow stronger and like have a higher score. My self-management is 71, so I think that like I've gotten a lot better of managing my emotions and managing like how I react. And then my next scores were self-awareness was an 87, and then social or relationship management was 85. And I've always like felt like those were going to be a higher score, just because like I do always care more about like my social relationship rather than myself. I've always kind of cared more about how people are around the room, like are their emotions good, like is everybody else good before I'm good. And I feel like maybe that's a weakness that I need to kind of work on, kind of caring more about my self-awareness and my self-management before I worry about other people, and then eventually having it all equaled out to hopefully higher than 90 on each one. But I really did enjoy this book, and I feel like it's going to help me be like a more emotionally intelligent leader. I'll be able to kind of like see how I am myself being in a leadership position and managing my emotions, and then also being socially aware, where like I'm able to take care of my subordinates and ensure that they're being taken care of emotionally as well. But yeah, that's all I have. Have a great spring break. If you're watching this during spring break, then I hope it's going well. But boomer sooner. Bye.